So this is what Dan looks like at 6 o'clock in the morning. It looks like he's drunk a bottle of vodka last night. Welcome back to the Leeds lobby. It's good to see you. We just thought we'd put another video out there because, again, it was quite raw last night with regards to finding out Rafinha was going and where he was going to. So we put a video out. We're not really talking too much optimism, and I think it's really important that as a Leeds fans we actually relish and enjoy what's taking place at the club right now in terms of the changes that are taking place in the improvements in the squad. So we're going to have a look this morning about that. Before we do that, I think it's very, very important that you subscribe. We're a new channel. There are 1,500 to 2,000 people watching some of these videos. We are a new channel, and for that reason it's really, really important to us that you just hit that subscribe button. People are hungry for content about Leeds United at this moment in time because we're a club that is, really now beginning to punch where we should be. We've been leagues lower than where we should be for what seems like a generation, and now it's a good time to be a Leeds fan. There's lots and lots of content providers out there. If you want to continue seeing that content, please hit the subscribe button. It's really important to us at Leeds Lobby. So what we want to get into this morning and have a bit of a chat about is the rebuild. We look like we're going to sell Rafinha for 65 million. Maybe some add-ons involved in that. We look like we've got 45 million for KP. Somewhere between 100 and 110 million is what we've managed to achieve. And now what's really, really important is if we're going to follow the Leicester model, that means that we have to sell a few really key players. What are we going to do from there on? And this is where investing in youth's been important, because we've brought players in for £1 million or £2 million and then sold them on for 8, 9, 10, etc. Joffrey we brought in for £1 million. He's going to be worth 20 plus now. And in a few seasons' time, he might have been worth 60, 70, 80 million, similar figures. This is how we build a club, because we then reinvest and hopefully we get to a point with Leeds' massive fan base and online presence and marketing, we get to a point where we're challenging once again for the top 6. So questions. We brought KP, we sold him. Rafinha we've bought for 17 million and we sold him. On the face of it, that's really good value. We've had a Brazilian world-class player playing that squad for a couple of years. What's to come next then, Dan?
Well, we've sold Phillips for 45 million, Rafinha for 65 million. So there we've got a combined 110 million. So you've got 110 million to spend. Who do you go out and buy?
What do you think of the signings we've already brought in?
Well, we made 3 signings that have all played Champions League. We've signed 3 Champions League players, and I think that's great. I think that's a step in the right direction. That's obviously, even we didn't sign many people last season, but even last season we were in our second season in the Premier. We were signing Champions League players. Firpo is terrible at this point in time, but at that time he was playing in the Champions League with Barcelona. Whether he was coming off as a substitute or not, that is a step in the right direction. Dan James, he was a substitute, but he was playing in the Champions League still. He was still coming on as a substitute in Champions League matches. And Brendan Aronson and Rasmus Christiansen were playing first team for Salzburg in the Champions League, which is just 2 brilliant signings. And Mark Rocker playing with Bayern in the Champions League.
So there's an argument to say for Aronson, Christiansen and Rocker that all 3 of these players have been at clubs that are Champions League clubs, been not perhaps the preferred first choice. That's not the case with Aronson and Christiansen. I think from Aronson and Christiansen's point of view, I think there's a link with Jesse Marsh. You see, when a player comes to Leeds from the continent, there's probably 2 or 3 different pulls. Some of these players might be wanting to come to the Premiership because they might be wanting eventually a bigger Premiership move, and Leeds might be a launch pad. These might not be clubs these might not be players that Leeds United would sign that are thinking they're going to be here for the next 10 years, for example. They may be thinking that they can come to the Premiership and get seen by a Man City or a Liverpool or a Chelsea or a Tottenham. And that does happen. And players that these clubs wouldn't go in for because they're not quite the finished article just yet, not proven Premiership track record. Leeds have to take those risks, whereas some of these bigger clubs that can splash the money in the way that they can and offer Champions League football are able to attract. Remember we talked about how clubs that are in London are able to more easily attract players than clubs in Norwich, for example, because people want to live in London. If you've got 80 to £100,000 a week coming in, there's a lot you can do in London. There's not so much you can do in Norwich or even Brighton. So this is why some of these clubs are able to attract bigger players, because of their location. Do you see Aronson, Christiansen and Rocker as an improvement on players that are already in the squad, and who do you see them replacing?
I see Rocker replacing Forshaw and playing Obviously, would have been playing with Phillips, but that ship sailed now. So we're going to need to bring in. I think Rocker replaces Forshaw, and Berger or Kamara replaces Phillips. I think Christensen is the first sort of piece in the jigsaw of replacing Ayling. Really, of phasing Ayling out. I don't think that he's going to come in and be the absolute stars every single game. I think they will rotate with Ayling and Drame for a bit if Drame does choose to stay. And I think Aronson is a replacement for Pablo. And I know he left a season ago, but we've obviously been missing that creativity in the midfield and that final third in the final product in the midfield. So I do see Aronson as a younger Pablo.
That's interesting that you say that. It's interesting you say that about Aronson and Pablo, and I can see that, because we had a situation with Pablo is we could 3/4 of the way through the game we could bring him on, and he was somebody that had an eye for a really, really good ball, and somebody that was like a bit of a wizard in the middle of the pitch, a playmaker as it were. I do see personally, I think Christensen, at the age that he's at and his athleticism, I think he's going to terrify some left defensive players. I think he's going to be an absolute beast personally. I think he's going to add to what we were able to do set piece wise, which we've been lacking, and for that reason, if he's able to improve something that we've been really deficient in, it could have a disproportionate effect on this Leeds side. I think he's going to be one of the first names on the team sheet. Which of those 3 transfers that we've already made excites you the most, do you think, Dan?
It's probably Rocker for me.
Yeah,
I think Christensen is really exciting. Aronson would be exciting, but we've been sort of looking at him from Jan, so everyone was sort of ready for that. That wasn't a big shock. Christensen and Rocker were just out of the blue. There were no links with them. There were no Leeds have done this and that. Leeds have inquired about Rocker. We just like a week ago we were linked with him, and then a week later we signed him.
Yeah, and I look at Christensen and I think, Ivan Drago from the Russian Republic, you will lose, I will have to crush you. I think like Arnold Schwarzenegger coming down the wing at me, and I mean, I know that's an exaggeration, but he's a big lad and he can shift. And not only that, but he's got some ball control. So for me, that Christensen every day of the week is what excites me. Seeing what he can bring to our squad in terms of those set pieces, and in terms of just a sheer attacking defensive option, which is quite interesting. You notice you mentioned Kamara, and I know that there's been a situation with Tyler Roberts. Tyler Roberts, hopefully, if you need my car, by the way, I will drive you to Cardiff. But Tyler, we were talking about whether or not we'd be signing him from Leipzig, Tyler Adams, and my question is, why all of a sudden is a switch from what looked like we were going to be in for Tyler Adams to Kamara? What's happened there?
It's obviously Leipzig don't want to sell to us because of the court case, which if you don't know what the court case is, then basically 19 to 20 season when we sold Roof, we needed to bring in a replacement. We bought in Jean-Kevin Augustin and Nketiah, but Jean-Kevin Augustin was on loan, and we had an option. We had basically, if we went up, the deal was that we would buy him for something like 10-15 million. He got injured after 3 games, and then he had to go back to Germany to resume training with Leipzig because he was injured. So we never actually got him to play properly, and for that reason, when we went up, we basically didn't want to buy him because he played 3 games for us, and then he went back to Germany. So now Leipzig have taken us to court over not buying him.
Augustin was one of these, I think, that looked, when we saw some video footage of him, he looked like a real prospect. For my recollection of him was that when he came in, he started playing Bielsa ball, and he just couldn't, because he never got fit. Interestingly enough, I noticed we was watching Just Joe last night, and we thought it was quite funny that somebody said that they're going to enjoy watching all these promotional videos and skill videos that have been made of Rafinha that Arsenal have put out, because they actually got to a point where many of them admitted that Rafinha is better than Saka, and they did that for no reason because he's not even going there, which is really amusing. Something we can wind them up about in the pub if you live anywhere near any Arsenal fans. So yeah, I think Tyler Adams, personally, I can hear many people saying that Kamara is the better player. What Leeds seem to be investing in is players that are in their early 20s, in some cases only 21, that are going to improve in stock, and I think that's very wise, because as a player coming to a club like Leeds, you know, we will, I'm hoping, begin to get to a point where in the next couple of seasons we can start challenge for European spots. We are a sleeping giant. We are a sleeping giant. I personally remember a transfer window which for me was the most exciting. Those couple of years where we were bringing in the Wallace brothers and when we brought in Tony Dorigo. And I saw a Leeds United side transform where, you know, Mel Sterling was kind of begin to be replaced. And that transition between that side and the Gary Kellys of this world, and where we began to be, you know, Tony Dorigo was a huge signing for Leeds. The only reason why he wasn't in the England squad was because of Stuart Pearce. Stuart Pearce was a mainstay, but Tony Dorigo was the second best left back in that league. There was absolutely no doubt about that. He was a phenomenal player. You know, where we started to bring in players like Tony Yeboah and eventually Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank. This is a turning point for Leeds. Leeds are going to be now beginning to filter out some of those Championship players that we've given the opportunity to come and play in the Premiership. We've given the opportunity to stay in the Premiership, stay playing at that level. We've got away by the skin of our teeth. Yes, there were injuries. Yes, we did have those issues, but still, some of the players. I still talk about Junior Firpo and say that for me, I'm not sure how I can see enough improvement in his performance that he's good enough, because when a player goes round him, he lunges in. He doesn't you know, defend the space. He lunges in and then turns like the QE2 when the player's herring down the wing behind him, and it's a centre half that's got to come over and defend. I just look at him and I just think, for me, I can't see how he's going to get good enough. It's not just about his feet, it's about his head in terms of his positional play. So I'm looking at seeing players like Firpo that perhaps, you know, okay, look, they sometimes put their heart and soul into it, but just not quite cutting it, how we can see those filtered out. So what about Gakpo? What's cracking off there then?
He looks like he's going to be our next signing, Cody Gakpo.
How old is he?
I think he's 22.
22.
Netherlands international, plays in the Eredivisie. Another player with European experience. He's a good winger, plays both wings and striker.
Now the question is, if we're buying him for 30 million at 22 years old, 30 million is a lot. You were £30 million for a 22-year-old player in that position suggests to me that this guy's going to be a world beater. So when we think about replacing Rafinha, who is predominantly strong on the right hand side, for 65 million, who is what, 26, 27?
26.
And we're replacing him with a £30 million player that can play both wings and up front, who looks a very exciting prospect for 30 million. Assuming that this guy's going to be able to do in our system perhaps what we're not sure Rafinha was ever going to be able to achieve in the system, although again a class player, but he just wasn't as good in the middle, and he wasn't as good inside as what he was outside, in my opinion. He wasn't as good on the left as on the right. That's got to be good business. It's got to be good business if this guy's going to start every game for us, and he's going to be somebody that is perhaps not a world beater just yet, but still has 3 or 4 years to improve. For me, I find that as a signing very, very exciting.
I think he's actually a left-footed right winger.
Yeah.
Actually.
Well, that's why he cuts inside.
Yeah.
That's why he cuts inside so much, and that's where he's different from Harrison, because Harrison would take it to the byline and cross it. When on the left-hand side, Rafinha would always cut inside, and that was what was exciting. But he did have both feet; he could play with both feet. What about De Ketelaere? What's your thoughts on him?
I'm not too sure about that one, that it'll actually happen. It'd be a great step in the right direction. It would probably cost around 25 million. Is it
Gakpo that's got the release clause, or is it De Ketelaere that's got a release clause? Who's got the release clause?
I'm pretty sure Gakpo's got a release clause of something like 35 million.
Yeah. And we seem to be getting close to triggering that, don't we?
Yeah. Ketelaere is, I'm sorry if I say his name wrong, it's quite a weird name to pronounce, but Ketelaere is a centre forward and an attacking midfielder, and he can play left winger. He's a good player on the ball, he's got good quality, and he's got good finishing. So
I saw on Twitter somebody under the name of We Are Leeds, at LUFC 1988 MOT, marched on together, tweeted out Calvin Phillips 45 million, Rafinha 65 million equals 110 million, out, in Aronson, Christensen, Rocker, Gakpo, De Ketelaere, Kamara, and Ben Foster, which we'll come back to in a minute, would you view that? Let me ask you to put in the comments below. Would you view those changes in terms of those coming out and those coming in? Would you view that as a good transfer window? Me personally, if we had a striker at the end of it, like a De Ketelaere or somebody of that standard that was somebody who isn't injury prone, who's able to start a game as a number 9, like a Robbie Fowler, somebody who can see the back of the net. Can you think of anybody else who fits that bill that we could perhaps go for?
Castellanos looks like it's not happening now. It looks like he'll probably go Leicester or West Ham. I would love to see Emmanuel Dennis from Watford. I would think it would be a great signing.
It's a good shout. So I think if we had a striker and a front line that we're happy with, that is going to be able to see the back of the net. We want somebody who's a sniffer. We want somebody who knows where the back of the net is, who can rip the back of the net. Somebody like a Beckford, a Chapman, a Viduka, somebody like that who's a talisman striker who will bob up and get us 20-25 goals a season. We haven't had that for quite a while. We haven't certainly had that while I've been in the Premiership. For me, we sort the midfield out and we're buying midfield players, 2 or 3 midfield players that are going to mean that we've actually got an out ball. And for me, knowing who is going to play left wing or wing back, left defensive or wing back, right defensive or wing back, and then back up for them, and I think we're ready to go. So for me, if we made these signings, I want to know that look, Dan James, we haven't really seen what Dan James is capable of, because he's not really played in position, in my opinion. There's a lot of criticism. He hasn't really played in his preferred position for much of the season, if I'm honest with you. And he certainly hasn't played on the left or on the right with somebody behind him that's competent and capable, and somebody that he knows what they're going to do, because he's actually builds up a rapport with them. So let's think, okay, if we do play Harrison at left back or left wing back with James in front, are we going to get a different new player from Dan James? Are we going to actually see the character of why Bielsa chased him for so much? So for me, I actually think that if we made all of those changes, provided we bring back up in for Meslier as an experienced keeper, it might be the thing that's done at the dying death, somebody in on a free, something like that, an older person that's happy to sit on the bench and just be there with him and train with him. For me, I personally think that's an improvement, and it's a transfer window where, yes, we've let some crown jewels away, but what we've also done is we've replaced with some players that may develop and may become just as good in the future.
Yeah, I agree. I think I would obviously take in an older, experienced goalkeeper as well.
Let us know what you think. Let us know what your thoughts are on each of these transfers. Also, let us know whether you think that this will be a good transfer window if we do make these signings and bring these people over the line and bring this business in. Thanks ever so much for watching the video.
Yeah, cheers for watching.
Smash the like, but by all means, please hit that subscribe and hit that notification button, and we'll speak to you next time.